Hey, I'm Dr. John. In today's explainer, we're going to talk about a simple, often overlooked habit that can make a really significant difference in men's health, especially after the age of 50. So let's just dive right in. So let's just start with a question. One I bet a lot of guys have thought about, quietly. What if there was just one small, simple habit? No pills, no fancy equipment that could help your body get back to functioning the way it's meant to. Because if you've noticed some changes over the years, maybe in force and control or just overall satisfaction, I want you to know two things right off the bat. You are not imagining it, and you are definitely not alone. This is an incredibly common experience. In fact, this is one of the most common unspoken concerns that men bring up. It's a natural part of aging, absolutely. But the way we respond to it can make a world of difference. And these experiences are usually very specific, right? It might be a noticeable decrease in force, a feeling of having less control over the timing, maybe it takes a little longer to recover, or just a subtle general sense that things aren't quite what they used to be. These aren't just in your head, they're real physiological changes. And this leads to a quiet assumption for so many men that this is just the way it is now, a one-way street. There's this feeling that once these changes start, there's not much you can do. But the truth is, your body, even after 50, is remarkably adaptable. Which brings us to the solution. And listen, this isn't some miracle cure you're going to see in a pop-up ad. It's a simple, science-backed habit that directly supports your body's mechanics. And honestly, it's something that is very, very often overlooked. And that habit is regular pelvic muscle engagement. Now, you've probably heard these called Kegel exercises. It's really just about consistent, gentle training of a key group of muscles that play a massive role in men's health. All right, I know what some of you might be thinking, and I've heard it 1,000 times. Wait a minute, isn't that for women? That is such a common misconception. The reality, these muscles are just as crucial for men, and when you understand what they actually do, it all starts to make perfect sense. So, let's get into the simple science of it, because understanding the why behind this is absolutely key to staying motivated and actually doing it. Okay, so at the base of your pelvis, you have this group of muscles called the pelvic floor. The best way to think of it is like a muscular hammock. And this muscle group is responsible for the rhythmic contractions that are at the very center of ejaculation. Now, within that group, there's one real key player, the pubococcygeus muscle. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful. You can just call it the PC muscle. This is the one that really does the heavy lifting, and it influences everything from force to control. And this really gets to the heart of the matter. Just like any other muscle in your body, if it's untrained, it gets weaker over time. It's not that anything is broken, it's just underused. But here's the really encouraging part. This muscle responds incredibly well to training, often a lot faster than people think. So what happens when you actually start doing this regularly? What can you really expect to notice? Let's break down the three biggest benefits. First up, improved force. It's pretty straightforward. Stronger muscles create more effective contractions, which means better propulsion. But beyond the simple biology of it, there's a huge psychological boost here. So many men report a restored sense of confidence, just feeling like their body is responding again. The second benefit is better control. As you build strength, you also build awareness in this area. And that gives you a lot more influence over your body's timing and response. Look, the goal isn't perfect control. It's about improvement. And that can totally change the experience. And third, here's the benefit a lot of people don't expect. Enhanced circulation. Every single time you engage these muscles, you're stimulating blood flow to that entire region. This is so important for the health of all the tissues down there, including the prostate, which, as we know, can be a concern as we get older. Okay, so we know what it is and we know why it works. Now, let's get to the most important part. How do you actually do it correctly and safely? Let's just walk right through it. First, you've got to find the right muscle. The easiest way is to imagine stopping urination midstream. That squeeze you feel, that's the muscle. So once you've found it, you practice when you're not urinating. Gently contract for about 3 to 5 seconds. Then, and this part is just as important, relax completely for another 3 to 5 seconds. Try to repeat that 10 to 15 times and aim for 1 or 2 sessions a day. The best part? No gym, no equipment. You can do it anywhere. Now, I really want to stress this. We are not aiming for a powerful, straining contraction. Some guys think harder is better, but that can just create tension you don't want. The goal is always a gentle, controlled engagement. And that leads us right to the common mistakes. Number 1 is overdoing it. Number 2 is inconsistency. This is a habit that builds with quiet, steady repetition, day after day. And finally, expecting a quick fix. You gotta be patient. Most guys start to notice subtle changes within 2 to 4 weeks, with bigger improvements building over a couple of months. All right, now let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. It's really important to understand that this one habit, as great as it is, works as part of a much larger system. Your pelvic muscle function is a critical piece of the puzzle for sure, but it's not the only piece. It works right alongside your cardiovascular health, your hormones, your sleep, and your nutrition. Think of this habit as something that just makes all those other pieces work together even better. And this brings us to a really important mindset shift. Your body at 55 is different from your body at 25. Of course it is. That's natural. But different doesn't have to mean worse. It just means it requires a more thoughtful, more consistent, and often a much simpler approach. So I want to leave you with this final thought. The most meaningful improvements in our health, they almost never come from doing extreme things. They come from doing the right things regularly. And this is one of those things. So start small, be patient, and just observe. You might be really surprised by the quiet but significant difference it can make.